Life over the last year has certainly been challenging, to say the least, a little bit crazy for all of us.
Children are really suffering too, but there is some free help you can take advantage of.
Dr. Alicia Farrell is offering a free parenting webinar, and it's a series focusing on things like stress, anxiety, and perfectionism in children. Thank you, Dr. Farrell, for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's so nice to see you. First of all, I've never heard of perfectionism. I don't have children, so probably why I don't know it. But what is perfectionism in children?
Yeah, so what we're seeing in our culture, and this has been going on for quite some time, is that we're raising our kids in a very performance-oriented world rather than a character-oriented world. So kids are very early on getting the message that in order to be worthy, they have to be perfect, meaning that they have to perform based on expectations that are being placed on them or that they understand are being placed on them. So perfectionism isn't necessarily doing everything perfect. It has to do with the connection between your performance and how you feel about yourself.
Yeah, I think a lot of adults have struggled with that, but I guess it makes sense. As a parent, what can we do so that our kids don't feel like they have to just perform all the time?
Yeah, that's such a really good question. One of the things we need to do is to start to use more collaborative parenting styles. So what I mean by that is working with our children collaboratively to help them establish their own expectations of themselves based on what it is that they want to accomplish.
Tell us about the 4 free webinars. What are we each going to cover? And do you need to watch all 4 of them, or can you jump on and just watch one and not the others?
Yeah, so they're designed to stand alone. So you can just tune into one, or you can tune into all 4, whatever you want to do. The 4 are going to cover topics like stress and anxiety and perfectionism and the relationship that has to our children's development and what we can do about it. We're going to talk about technology, so both screen time and content, what's reasonable, and also how that's influencing both our children's brain development as well as their socio-emotional development. We're going to talk about drugs and alcohol, and specifically going to focus on marijuana and how to talk to our kids about drugs and alcohol, and how to maintain a relationship with our children that will hopefully facilitate perhaps some experimentation, but definitely not abuse. And then finally, we're going to talk specifically about parenting and how to parent in this crazy mixed up world that we're raising our children in with the influence of social media.
Let me get a little advice now for everyone wondering. I mean, I know that technology is a big deal, and the older your kids get, I find, you know, we're supposed to pick our battles. It gets harder to monitor everything, or especially right now, it's their only connection to the world. What should we be doing with technology right now? Is too much really hurting our kids?
Yeah, it is. It is. Just flat out, the answer to that question is it is hurting our children. And what we're seeing now, particularly with our teenage children, is that they are actually self-actualizing through social media. So they have this device that is really a weapon in their lives, because what it does is it tells them that life is supposed to be a certain way, and it actually isn't that way. Yet they feel like they have to somehow adhere to those standards and expectations. So what I strongly recommend is that you introduce technology into your children's lives very cautiously and very carefully. So, and it's a challenging thing to do because it's such a part of our lives right now. So as parents, we have a responsibility to teach our children that this device, I call it a rectangle, this rectangle that we hold in our hands and we walk around with all day, is actually a tool. It's not a lifestyle. So we have to employ that sort of perspective with our children very early on. It's complicated, and you're going to have, as a parent, you're going to have to push against convention in order to handle technology in your children's lives in a responsible fashion.
Drugs and peer pressure, they're such a big thing. I want to go back to the drugs for a second. Is there an age that is too young to start to talk to your children, or what's an appropriate age to start bringing up that topic?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you can start actually very young, because what you would do with a child who, let's say a child who's 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old, is you wouldn't obviously have a conversation directly about drugs and alcohol with that child, but you could start to have conversations with them about things like they're brushing their teeth and they put toothpaste on their toothbrush, and you say, a little bit of toothpaste is okay, but if you put the entire tube on your toothbrush, it'd probably make you sick. So you start to employ the thought process with them that there are certain things that you either choose not to do or you choose to do in moderation in order to be healthy in life. And then directly you can start talking with your children about drugs and alcohol, first grade, second grade, third grade. And I strongly encourage you to do that. It's extremely important. And there are ways of doing that, and we'll talk about
in age appropriate ways, because I know some of us were thinking, oh gosh, you don't want to talk about this with a 6-year-old, but the way we talk about it would be different for different ages.
Absolutely. No question about it. Yeah. And these conversations are very short. They're not, you're not going to do a PowerPoint presentation with your kid and tell them all about drugs and alcohol.
Well, thank you so much for your time. You're right here in Connecticut, isn't that right?
Yes, in Old Saybrook. Yeah.
Excellent. That's terrific. Well,
Old Saybrook, and I know you were just recognized in 2019 with the Women of Excellence Award by Shoreline Chambers of Commerce. So nice of you to bring these free webinars. I know people have a lot of time. We're doing a lot of Zooms, but this might be really worth it so you can feel a little bit more empowered at home parenting those kids.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say in closing that everything that I talk about is boots on the ground. So it's practical, it's usable. It's so helpful because people will get off these webinars and they'll be able to make changes right away.
Excellent. Well, again, these free parenting webinars start in February. Thank you, Dr. Farrell. You can sign up online at it's
Alicia or Alicia?
Alicia. Oh, we hope we got your name first.
Yeah.
Is it
Alicia? That's
Alicia.
fine.
Alicia.
I want to make sure we're pronouncing it right. Okay, Alicia Farrell, PhD.com/events. It's right there on your screen. And again, you can go to one, you can go to all four. They're all free.